What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to Salty Runback, here to be your weekly intake of North American Developmental League of Legends. We are coming to you the day that the final LTA North spot has been finalized, and that means Tier 2 floodgates have opened. It is time for the rostermania to begin. We did a little bit of a mock setup last week in our last episode, so thank you, everybody, if you ended up tuning into that with the Salt Mine guys and with Shibby and all that. But now we get to see what the teams do for real, and I think that could be even more exciting than that. My name is Grapes, joined alongside Hawk. Hawk, we missed you last week. How are you doing?
Oh, dude, this new job is kicking my ass a little bit, but we're hanging in there. You know, I'm back for our regularly scheduled programming where we don't have 7 people to go around. It is fine. I was supposed to be Luminosity, and that didn't really work out. I was going to be Moist Esports in the OQs if I could have been there for the recording. I think I really could have cooked, by the way. I was texting you guys about like what roster I could have gone for. I don't remember what I said now, but
it was, I mean, there were so many good players open.
Yeah,
that it had to be good.
It was pretty saucy, I'm not gonna lie.
Speaking of Moist, I spent like the last 2 days just watching Ludwig and CDog VA on Twitch, just raging through League of Legends like Silver Solo Queue with Captain Flowers, Cage Roll, Double Lift, and now Pobelter all just like backseat gaming them and like giving them tips and tricks. It is some of the best content I've ever seen. And so if you are bored this offseason after you finish this episode of Salty Runback, go check Ludwig out, see what he's doing, and maybe type in the chat, hey, you should make a League of Legends team.
Yeah,
and play in the NACL. So, real quick before we get started, which roster out of the 7 did you like best? I don't know if you got the chance to fully look through all of them.
Yeah, I did, but I don't remember now. I want to say I thought Shibby cooked. He was Dragonsteel, or
Slayer was Dragonsteel. Shibby was Supernova.
I think it was Slayer then. I think I liked that cook the best. I'm really struggling to remember now though. Like I did look at the rosters, but I think it was Slayers that I liked. I don't even know where I'm gonna pull them up, but yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah,
Slayer was good. Unfortunately,
I will say I'm sorry, Gordo. I do remember hating your roster the most. So.
I thought his was pretty good.
It was
the thing okay. You have to remember is that me and Gordo had the lowest budgets, and so we had to.
But I thought you did a better job with the limited resources. To be honest, I'm sorry, Gordo. I actually thought everyone's roster was like pretty good, but I also think with the dollar amounts that we had, like that was sort of the expectation, is that everyone's roster was going to be pretty good, and that was what happened. So.
It does make it interesting because it shows that we very much prioritize potentially different things over maybe like the GMs of teams and things like that, because I have a feeling that not all the players that we picked are going to end up on NACL teams, and you know, they're going to be players that we didn't pick or maybe skipped over that you know are going to be on rosters. The biggest cook of all was Quacks grabbing Bo in his first pick from Europe. I'm
gonna be honest, I gotta hate it.
That was so funny.
Quax's roster was really unhinged because he also had Mask, right?
No, Gordo or Slayer had Mask, but hold on, I have it up here. Quax's final team. Can you send me this? I'm gonna send you a screenshot right now. Quax's final team was Stray, Bo, Darkwings, Aaron, and Mixture. And he picked Bo and Mixture pretty early on, and I was telling him he should have locked in like a Tony Top or something to go just like the full 2022 TSM strategy where you just draft a full Chinese speaking roster, but or you know, at least a chunk of them. I don't know Darkwings or Aaron.
There are not very many pixels in the screenshot you sent me. Okay, yeah, Slayer cooked. This was a good team because he basically had like a couple of LCS players, the good parts of Dragonsteel, and then Diamond. Like, this was a cook. Let's see. I think Blue Otter's actually fine. Why did I not like this roster?
I thought Blue Otter actually did a pretty good.
No, this is fine. Okay, sorry, Gordo. You're catching strays for 0.
Yeah, grabbing stray or grabbing Spyrex. That was pretty big for him.
Yeah. No, this roster's fine. Okay, I was a hater for 0. I'm not the biggest believer in Porsche in the NACL. I think Porsche's been perennially one of those players that I think is one of the best in tier 3, but not like would not be convinced at the next level. However, that's how I felt about Crimson, and then Crimson had a pretty good split. So
I think Porsche was his last pick, and he spent the whole time talking about how many solid like $3 NACL top laners there were. And then at the end of the draft, he had to pick a top laner, and he only had $2 left, and so he was pretty sad about that. I remember.
Okay, Fear is pretty good. I like the Jensen. I would have taken Jensen if I went Moist Moguls because I got to get like one of the content players that everyone's gonna like.
Yep,
that's definitely Jensen. Oh no, it was Quax's roster that I didn't like. The Winthrop roster. Yeah, this was not. Bro did not cook. I'm sorry.
I think he had a strategy going in, which was to take Yusin, and I stole him with my first pick.
Bro did not cook.
His whole strategy went out the window.
Stray, Bo, Darkwings, Aaron mixture. Like, I really like mixture. I like Darkwings and Aaron. I'm entertained that there are 0 Winthrop University players on the Winthrop University team, which is probably part of the issue I have with this. Yeah, Quacks did not cut. Gordo was catching strays for Quacks' sins. This roster is it's something.
I think they're all solid-ish, but that was one that I thought was really fun and like experimental, but definitely would never see it in the NACL.
Yeah. Supernova's interesting. Lil too inexperienced, I think, for me, but like some exciting players on this one. Toasty and Sajed getting poached by Dragonsteel this week from that roster is kind of funny.
I know.
They do end up playing together. Grapes, your roster is like, I'm going to pick my favorite players, and I respect that. You know, like,
it was that was what it was. I had $3 at the end for a bot lane, and so I decided to spend $2 on an AD. It left me $1 to pick my guy.
So funny, dude. I think, excuse me. I think his team is fine. I'm just entertained.
This is like what Grapes would do if he was an NACL GM with not a lot of money.
There's some pretty good pickups here, though. There's some pretty good pickups. I don't know who's like the leader on this team, though. That's my problem.
It'd probably have to be Kryra, but that. I don't know. He's more of like a secondary guy. You're right. So we'd have to lock that down. But
anyway, Grapes, we're 8 minutes into this episode. Should we actually get started? Maybe we can cut that down a little bit, or we could just leave the full rambling.
Just leave it in. It's full off-season mode at this point. Like why not just
before we start? I have one more thing. Oscar Cam.
There he is. There's the cat. This is the off-season content that you're looking for. If you're watching a Salty Runback episode in the middle of December, you're getting the full
you're a goat.
You're getting the full access here.
Apologize for my unclean
ramblings.
room, by the way. That's what happens when you start working 40 hours a week and you're not used to it yet, and you just kind of don't do any of your chores. So, you know.
Hey everyone, a quick break from the episode to let you know that Salty Runback is looking for sponsors for the 2025 season. We had a great 2024 with our podcast and our production ventures in the NACL and CLOL, and we're looking to do more of that in 2025, but we're going to need your help. We have some really exciting projects that we want to get funded, but we need some sponsors to help get that wheel going and make sure that we can put out the best content that we can in the NACL CLOL space. So if you are a marketing director at a company who is interested in partnering with us, or if you know anybody who could be interested as well, send us an email at saltyrunbackpod@gmail.com or DM one of me or Hawk on Twitter at SpeedyGrapes or at HawkCast. Thank you very much, and let's get on with the episode. Let's get into the headlines. Headlines only today. We're going to start with the LTA North, as we mentioned. The final roster decision was actually Diggs Jungler. That just got announced on Wednesday morning. Sheiden will be the jungler for Dignitas for the 2025 season. He joins his teammate Surdy from last season and the year before in that position. A lot of speculation was originally that this was going to be Spica. There was always conversation about Yuji as well, but it ends up being Sheiden. Sheiden next to the two junglers promoted, and then we have, of course, ScaryJerry also on DSG, and Surdy in the top lane for Dignitas. That is 4 total NACL promotions to the LTA North. With your expectations coming into this year, Hawk, is this 4 number too low, maybe too high, or is this actually about what you were expecting?
I don't want to use the word too high because I don't think any of these promotions were undeserved or anything. But I actually think this is higher than I expected, Grapes. Especially considering we lost essentially a whole team again, right? With Lions sort of taking the place of, you know, one of our LCS teams, right? So, yeah, I am very pleasantly surprised. Jerry, Sheiden, Jerry, Sheiden, Surdy, XU, and
That's
forgetting
it.
one.
And then you have Winsome as
Oh,
the,
and you
as the
right.
fifth, but he went to Brazil. So
Winsome went to
technically
Brazil.
5, I guess, if you want to think about it that way.
Yeah, I think these are all very deserved promotions. I'm going to say it's just right because I think this is more than I expected, but I'm very happy and excited for all these players that they are going to be competing at the next level. I think these are all players that have been looking to prove their worth, and now they're going to get the opportunity to. I like as well how I think especially like Jerry is a bit more like unproven than some of the other guys, right? Like people have been calling for Surdy, XU, Sheiden to be playing at the next level. Jerry, I think like it was in his future. I said on Salty Runback about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, in one of our first episodes, I couldn't find it, but I said that I think Jerry will play in the LCS one day, and he is finally going to get that shot. And you know, whether it could be argued like, oh, should he have cooked in the NACL for another split? It doesn't matter. My man's going to be in the LTA, and I'm very excited for him, and I think he is a player that can rise to the occasion. So, yeah, I'm very, like, as a NA Dev fan, I'm very happy with how this offseason went.
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily expecting too many promotions, even though I thought there was a lot of deserving players, just because, as you said, roster team size shrinking once again here in the league, depending on how you want to think about it. Of course, we did get like Licorice on Lion, but I think in general that team was going to be more Latin American players, and so probably not as many opportunities for promotion.
It could have only had at most 2 NA players, right? So
yeah. So I think in total, though, this is a pretty solid offseason if you are an NACL fan. And I love the fact specifically that we get 3 players that kind of have the opportunity at redemption in a way. Going into this season or going into 2024, Surdy and Sheiden were originally slated to be playing for Evil Geniuses in the LCS before, of course, their team ended up disbanding. And then, of course, XU had his whole situation where he was one of the maybe better performing players on an underperforming Dignitas roster, and then unfortunately kind of just lost his opportunity to play in the LCS going into the summer split, replacing Spica. So now XU gets a chance with Disguise, and Surdy and Sheiden get their chance with Dignitas. And then, of course, you have ScaryJerry, who I'm also really excited about on that DSG team. Gives you another rookie ADC to be excited about, and somebody else to keep your eyes on if you are somebody who has only been watching the LTA. Because if you've only been watching the LCS for however many years, you've seen a little bit of Sheiden, you've seen a little bit of XU, you've heard so much about Surdy, but I'm glad you get another new guy like ScaryJerry in there as well.
Yeah, I've had actually the opportunity to talk to Lawrence XU in person after NACL finals. Go watch that episode if you never did. And I said to him that I want to see him in the LCS again. I think he was good enough to do it. I think he was a good personality. He was playing well. And I'm very happy that he's gotten to that level. I just saw him on Friday, and I got to talk to him a little bit about it again, and he seemed excited, which is great. I think, funnily enough, Grapes, I think that's actually the promotion I'm happiest about. I think all of them are very well deserved, but I do feel like XU should not have been back in the NACL, and so I'm happy to see him in the LTA again. And then we get into like, okay, Surdy was an obvious promotion, right? And then, okay, Sheiden, he's been playing well for a couple years. Easy, right? And so we're kind of getting there. I do think the elephant in the room, of course, is that Sheiden got taken over Yuji. A lot of speculation that, it's probably a money thing, visa thing, which makes sense. Also, Grapes, I do want to just throw more speculation into the ring. I wonder if there's a world where Surdy requested Sheiden. Because they have played together for so long. I don't know if that would have happened or not, but that's just another thing that maybe could have been taken into consideration. Heart goes out to Yuji. I think we'll talk about that a little bit more in our 4th headline, but that's sort of the reality right now.
Yeah, they're going to go on to 3 years playing together. They played on Evil Geniuses Challengers in summer 2023, FlyQuest Challengers the entirety of 2024, and now get an opportunity in the LTA together. These were obviously, they were both big prospects that we were excited to see in Tier 1 even last year, and so seeing them finally get that spot is good. And again, I totally see, we're like some of Yuji's biggest supporters in a way, like on this platform. I feel like every week we're talking about how it's a rocker, he's not in the LTA.
I mean, everyone is,
but I don't want that to be a knock against Sheiden.
Definitely not.
And against Dignitas' decision specifically here, just because we don't know all the full details, and also Sheiden very solid player. He won the
Yeah.
NACL the year before,
I mean,
or the split before in the spring, and has always been a kind of highly touted prospect as well.
UG was the back-to-back MVP, but I think it's important to remember that I think Sheiden partially was not winning that award just because UG was like that little bit better. You know what I mean? But it's not like Sheiden is that much worse. Those two junglers have been going toe-to-toe in Challengers League for the last 2 years, basically. Like, they have been the guys. So, I think it's important you bring up that point, Grapes. Like, I think it's totally valid to be disappointed that UG's not going to be playing an LTA, but I don't think we should let that take away from how good Sheiden is, because he is pretty much just as good as UG, right? And that's really important to understand.
We always talk about how good jungle is in North America, and that's kind of showing here, where you have
Exactly.
Spica getting kicked off, maybe not kicked off the team, but like he was on the team, now he's not on the team.
Things are happening, yeah.
You know, for Sheiden, and then XU is also here, and we still have Yuji on the bench. Like, there's a lot of really solid jungle talent here in North America, and I think that's always something we have to think about. We are very grateful to have that many good players here. So, congratulations to our 4 promotions. However, our next headline, we're going to be going from maybe a little bit more positive thoughts to some more negative thoughts. As
and
we're
bad
have
capitalization, apparently.
And put an 07 to Cincinnati Fear, even though it was announced that they were going to be one of the 7 teams participating in the NACL guaranteed for 2025. It was announced last week that, unfortunately, their parent company decided to not fund them for this upcoming season, and they are now being forced to sell their slot. Important to note, do not throw any hate towards the Cincinnati Fear organization or their company or any of the staff that was working there. It was not their decisions. It was higher-ups, people who own their company. It was their parent company that made this decision. And it's a shame to see an organization that participated in all of the years of the NACL. They were about to be the only team to participate in all 3 years of the NACL after AOE ended up dropping out. And so, not really a question here, Hawk, just your thoughts about one of the premier organizations in North America stepping away for this upcoming season.
Yeah, this is a tough one, man. But I'm going to come at this from an optimistic approach almost. I think, because a lot of people have been like, oh my God, you could do everything right like Fear, which, okay, first of all, guys, I think we're forgetting some of the hiccups that Fear had early in their existence, but regardless.
Or even last split, there was the whole win some thing that happened as well. So.
I mean, we've heard a lot of stuff about, like, I don't think they did everything right, but regardless, they did. They had a good showing overall in the NA dev space, and people are like, you could do all those things, and it's like still doesn't work. Y'all, I think it's important to understand. To me, I think this was a failing parent company and not a failing esports organization. It was leaked that for 2024 they ran at a loss of 4 figures. That's not that much money,
and it was low 4 figures. It was maybe. I think the number that was put out there was about 2,000 to 3,000.
That's if you're like a solid company of any kind that should be investing actual money in something, that is like pocket change, right? And so if that is the loss that they were running at, this did not happen because the esports team was failing in the thing. You know what I mean? Like that is a company that is failing and needs to get rid of stuff. And so I do think that's a really important that's going to be my angle that I take. And so, yeah, it's tough that Fear's gone, but I'm actually honestly not going to take this as a reflection on the NA dev space. I don't know if that's a little bit of cope, but that is how I'm going to come at it. Yeah. My heart goes out to the people affected by this. I was talking to a couple players that were in talks with Cincinnati Fear that no longer have those offers. Obviously, the coaches, the staff. I really hope they're able to find landing spots. There were a lot of really talented people or involved with that organization. But at least from a high level, I don't think this is some like NA League doomer moment.
It's easy to go down that path because so much stuff has come out that is not great for the NA ecosystem. And, this is not a good one either. Objectively, I think the league will be probably worse without the inclusion of Cincinnati Fear, an organization that always had their best intentions. They flew their players out to boot camps, or even in the first split of NACL in 2023, they all took them out and they all lived together in a house in California or Nevada together. I forget where exactly that was, but a lot of
they tried,
them.
they actually tried to do the thing.
They always prioritized their players. They had a activation with a brand that is very big in the streamer world, that being Starforge this last season. And only losing $2,000 to $3,000 according to whatever what was out there. Like, it's not too bad.
That's
all.
one player, basically. You know what I mean?
Especially when you compare it to some of the other teams out there. Like, we don't have like full numbers for like the rest of the league, but Fear probably one of the better margins out of all the teams, and they were one of the top spenders in the last season, as it was pretty obvious. So it is definitely unfortunate. I loved the content that they put out. I loved all their branding and what they brought to the league. And that's just it's just sad we're not going to see that. I don't think it's necessarily a place to get like angry at anyone other than maybe the parent company for just not letting them ride another time. And honestly, if anything, I think it's proof that if they only lost that much money like last season, losing or going one more year down the road with a new NACL where brands are bigger, there's promotion spots on the line, I think there is potentially a path to a more sustainable ecosystem if things if organizations are able to make the right decisions.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really have too much else to say on this other than like I think Grapes, the note that we should end this headline on is I'm hoping that the players and the people that were affected that are at the lower level of the space, meaning like direct staff, direct coaches, players, like I'm hoping that they're able to end up okay. It's a tough loss of an organization that did do a lot of good things, but here's hoping that another one comes in. The teams that are in the league are able to find the partnerships that they need to operate at a sustainable level. I, again, do not believe that this one team dissolving in this way is indicative of the space, but rather an unfortunate coincidence, right? And so we'll see whether or not that ends up to be being true, but I do think I think 2025 has the opportunity to be a renaissance for the tier 2 space in terms of like, investment and sustainability, given the now full path for promotion. And I'm hoping that is able to happen.
I hope that people look at, the margins that you're able to run at and see that as an opportunity to improve on that with the new opportunities that are arising in North America with promotion and with the added branding that could be available. So that's all we'll say on that. Hope to see all the players and staff land on their feet in good spots for 2025. But let's talk about some of the rosters that we will be seeing in the NACL 2025. That first one, of course, being the big dog, Luminosity. We heard a lot of rumors about how much money that they were going to be investing. We're even hypothesizing, I should say, on the show last week or leading up to the rostermania draft that, they could go crazy. They could import a lot of players. They could create this all-star roster. The roster finally has been announced.
Guys, I was going to import T1 Smash if I was Luminosity. I'm just going to tell you. That was my plan. Grapes knows this.
Their roster, though, looks a little bit different than T1 Smash.
It's no T1 Smash.
In fact, look pretty familiar to some other teams, it being Fake God, Tomio, Insanity, Tactical, and Zazel. So 3/5 of the C9 Challengers / DSG core, and then 2 solid NA players who were both in the NACL, or in the LCS, I should say, over the last couple of years. So I guess the thought here is this is now going to be the third split in a row, Hawk, where we see this core of players kind of participating together. Are you bored by all this, or are you excited by Luminosity investing in NA talent and going this specific pathway towards a potential promotion into the LTA?
I have tweeted about this. I think anyone upset by this roster does not know ball. I'm sorry. Like, you don't know ball if you're mad about this roster. I totally get it. From an LTA perspective, I do think if I saw this roster, I'd be like, what in the Immortals is this? But they're gone, okay? And this is the NACL. This team, first of all, is 5 North American players. I feel like they're not getting enough credit for that. Like, bona fide dudes that have come through the system time and time again and proved their worth, And that goes right into my second point. 4 out of the 5 players on this team, as recently as 2023, were considered like top 2 in their roles in NACL. Fake God, Tomio, Insanity, and Zazel have all been the best of the best and like next up for promotion within the last couple years. And yeah, they all weren't that great on Shopify, right? But they're still really damn good players, and they're sticking together for another year, which I think has kind of flown under the radar too. And that one player that was not top in NACL was Tactical, who was just playing in the LCS the whole time. And okay, Tactical wasn't playing very well in the LCS, but my man is still an LCS caliber. Well, he's still an LCS AD carry. Like, he's going to be better than a lot of the guys in NACL. And at the very least, like, okay, maybe they could have gone for someone like Lens or something if they wanted to be spicy. But who's to say that Lens is even better than Tactical, right? Now Lens gets to cut his teeth on Tactical and on this Luminosity team. I think it's a great roster. I think Luminosity are the favorites to win the NACL alongside Dragonsteel. I don't think they are runaway favorites. I want to temper that expectation. Like, I think they are very mortal, but I think if you're putting together a roster of like who are 5 of the best players we could get to play in the NACL right now, this makes perfect sense. And anyone upset by this roster just does not know ball.
I think upset is a strong word to
disappointed maybe
describe the sentiment. In terms of the question itself, you know, I don't think boring is the right word to put on this Luminosity team. I think the word that you should put it is probably like safe. This is a very safe roster.
It's very safe
that Luminosity is putting out.
But
here.
I think safe is smart here.
If you know, I think safe can be smart. I think that you know, these guys have all proven to have finished either at the top of NACL or, you know, it be LCS level players over the last couple of years. You think of, you know, even Tactical, even though his last couple of years weren't good. You think about his how hyped up he was on like TSM Academy in like 2019 and 2020, and then of course his breakout on TL. However, I do part of me does wish that, you know, all the rumors about how hype and how expensive this roster is going to be, and how, you know, they're going to just easily promote into the LTA. I was maybe hoping for a little bit more spice, whether that means a rookie coming in here or, you know, being the full villain of the league, importing a ton of players, just like sending over a team that like could make worlds, like play them into the NACL. Because even though I wouldn't necessarily be rooting for that team to succeed or rooting for that team to promote, it creates like a villain, it creates branding, and things like that if you have that kind of evil empire. I think this is just going to be a very safe team, and honestly, they will be there. They are the favorites to promote for now, but I think if by the end of the year they are still the favorites to promote, I think that means that the other teams in the league would be very disappointed in themselves. I think that there is not a ton of necessarily like room up to grow for these players because we've seen them at their peaks for a while. Can they get better? Sure, potentially, but I think that other teams could have the potential to have their players grow to a level where they can contest Luminosity by the end of 2025, and that is my hope for the NACL this season.
I think I'm happier with this roster than the import roster, but I would have liked to see them take like a risk on someone, right? Like, sure, maybe we could have gone for like, I'm struggling to think of names right now, but like, you know, a Faisal or a Lens or a Sajed or a Toasty, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So when DSG first came into the league, what we were so excited about is that they had this core of players that just won with Cloud9.
Yeah, and they got young.
Tomio and Zazel, and they got Young and Meech, who were some younger, newer players, and then they eventually got to improve a lot. Meech in the LCS the following year. And so I think that was very exciting. But, of course, that's not necessarily the priority now. Luminosity, their only goal is to just have the best possible roster at this moment, and that, I think, is what they did is a pretty safe way of doing so.
I do think I agree with the sentiment. Like, I think this team is in a position to make the promotion tournament. I am not sure that this roster promotes, though. And if they do, it is not inspiring. Like, I do agree with that sentiment. But I am overall, like, I'm okay with this roster that Luminosity put together. I do think it is safe. I do think it is smart. And I do think them and Dragonsteel are the favorites to win this league and to be in that promotion tournament. Now, Grapes, I want to have this conversation really quick. Or actually, maybe we do our next headline first, because I'm going to say we should have a hypothetical where if the promotion tournament is disguised Dragonsteel and Luminosity, who wins?
Right.
Or is it an LTAN team? But probably not. So let's talk about Dragonsteel, and then maybe we can get into this, because Dragonsteel has just announced their roster changes. I called this the bombshell of the offseason. Important to note, they are retaining UG, Spyrax, and Zyko, all players that were rumored to be gone. However, they have also picked up two of the most exciting prospects in the region, and then one slightly more unproven, but I made a whole video partially about how I think this player is good. Shimmer in the jungle, Toasty Alex, and Sajed. This is absolutely crazy. Sajed will more than likely be the starting AD carry for Maryville, given that ScaryJerry is going to the LCS. And then, Grapes, I think there's a legitimate conversation of, does Toasty Alex overtake Spyrax for 2025? But just before we get into all that, first reactions to this roster, the pickups from Dragonsteel here.
Yeah, I think the question I had here in the headline was, does this roster outpace the last season's roster in terms of strength? And I think at first glance, you see all these new faces come in and you think, oh, obviously, like, look at all these hype players and things like that. But then you think about the fact that ScaryJerry is going to be leaving, and that's who Sajed's going to be replacing. And I think we can all say that ScaryJerry had the better 2024 compared to Sajed, even though Sajed, as a rookie, definitely put up some really solid numbers with FlyQuest. And then the fact that, you know, you are going to be running this kind of 7-man roster situation where Shimmer will be behind Yuji, Toasty Alex will probably be behind Spyrax, at least for the start of the season. And then you're kind of looking at, in terms of just a starting 5 of basically Dragonsteel from last year, but with Sajed instead of ScaryJerry. If you're just considering all of that, could it be a downgrade? I don't think that's necessarily the case.
It's not a
I think
downgrade.
having a 7-person roster of this caliber is going to be very exciting. There's, you know, still a lot of talented staff and coaches at Maryville that are going to help these younger players learn a lot, especially with, you know, an NACL winning team like to learn behind. And I think that situation will help everybody involved.
Yeah.
I know that there's always conversations about, like, do 6-7-man rosters work? I don't know necessarily what the answer to that is. What I do know is that most years that Maryville has run their program, they pick a set of 5 players, even if they have 10, 11, 7, 8, whatever. And
they always have more than 5. They always do.
Exactly. No matter the amount, they always pick a group of 5 and, like, run them for a whole split, whether it's the whole CLO season or the whole, you know, just an ACL season. And so I'm expecting that, but I do think that the inclusion of the other players in this program does make this roster stronger.
So I want to toot my own horn a little bit. I did off air, but Slayer can vouch for me. I did call Toasty Alex to Dragonsteel. I said he's turning 18. He is going to college. We've talked to him about how, you know, he might look into CLOL. And I said that he might go to Dragonsteel because of that. And he did. Very exciting stuff for Toasty. I think specifically for Toasty and for Shimmer, this is huge for the growth of these two players. They are going to be learning behind the dynamic duo of Yuji and Spyrax. And I think these are two players that have not really, to this point in their careers, played on a roster like of the caliber of Dragonsteel in terms of like the support systems, right? And so this is so cool for them too. Sajed, excuse me, definitely got like a little bit of a taste being on FlyQuest Challengers already, having like more of a robust coaching staff and all of that. But also for him, I think this will be awesome, especially because he is going to be the one stepping in. As far as replacing ScaryJerry and like the question at hand of like, is this roster going to be stronger? I do not think Sajed is really a downgrade from Jerry. I think he has the potential to be an upgrade. Like, who fucking knows, right? Like, I think they're both very good. Jerry's probably a little bit better right now, but Sajed's got the sauce. We've already seen that. And so I think in this program, alongside these players, he's going to be allowed to thrive so much. Yeah, I am very excited about this. And like I said, Graves, I think there is a very real conversation to be had about whether or not the starting mid laner for Maryville University for 2025 CLOL is Toasty, Alex, or Spyrax, because I think Toasty can get to that level. He's already almost there, and Spyrax has been in the game for a while, and I know I don't believe, having talked to him and the people around him, I don't believe Spyrax is still striving to become a pro. So I do wonder if there's a world where he steps aside and Toasty sort of takes up that mantle and leads Maryville into the future. But regardless, I think this is still one of the favorites to win Challengers League. Like just period.
Yeah, I don't think they got any worse to the extent of like they're not going to be a favorite or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly.
If anything, especially because
I think they're just
Eugene
going to get stronger. Dude, Zamudo's still cooking.
If Eugene Spyrax left and the roster was Zamudo, Shimmer, Toasty, Sajed, Zyko, you could have an argument of like, did they get worse? Did they get better?
At least worse to start.
Yeah, but the fact that Eugene Spyrax are still there definitely like helps a ton.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that I'm selfishly a little bit sad about is the fact that we only will get to probably see one of Toasty or Spyrax competing in the NACL next year.
Agreed.
Another instance where something like this happened was last year when Kachu went to Maryville, and we didn't really see much of him over last season, even though he was a player that I was personally really excited about after his 2023. Hopefully that's not the case, and we get to see both in action in some capacity. I don't know what the situation will be in terms of like lending players out to other NACL programs or things like that. I'm expecting them all to kind of stay at Dragonsteel, and if you're mad about that, like, I'm maybe like sad about it in a selfish perspective, but you cannot fault Maryville for picking up Toasty when they already have Spyrax. Like if they want to go, if Toasty wants to go play and be like a 6-man or a sub for Maryville, like that's like just a testament to how solid that program is for development and things like that. Will they be better than Luminosity? Is the question. I don't, or DSG for that matter.
Yeah, Grapes. I want you to give your take, and then I'll give mine. If these are the three teams, who on paper is the best?
Who on paper is the best? Okay, so DSG, Castle, XU, Abadaga, ScaryJerry, and Huhi. We already mentioned Luminosity's roster, and then we already mentioned Dragonsteel's roster. This is a tough one, and I think right now I'm probably leaning towards DSG just a little bit, just because they're all. Or 4 of the 5 are proven Tier 1 talents who have like been on that stage before. We just talked about that comparison between like ScaryJerry and Sajed. Tactical kind of in that mix as well, but hasn't had that direct competition. And I think being in the LTA for a whole year could also potentially help strengthen that team, help somebody like Jerry really grow a lot over the course of this season. And so right now I'd say DSG has a solid chance of retaining their spot. However, if players like Sajed take a big step, or if Zamudo takes a huge step, or if anything else happens in that regard, I could definitely see Dragonsteel being in the mix, and I really do think all 3 of these teams are rather close.
Yeah, I would agree that they're all rather close. With that being said, Grapes, I think Dragonsteel's got the best team. I think this Dragonsteel roster is nuts, especially like Spyrax and Toasty, I think like have the potential to be equally as good, but just saying this hypothetical, Toasty is the one playing mid. I think Dragonsteel has 5 players that could be considered the future of our region in their respective roles. I think this team is putting together like the infinity gauntlet of like hype prospects. I think Dragonsteel winning NACL last split flies under the radar how much they've developed all these players over multiple years, and they're going to just continue to do so. I think this program continues to set the bar for what it means to be a collegiate program, for what it means to develop players, for what it means to, just like be a part of this region. And I think they'll continue to do so. I think this is the strongest roster on paper. I think Zamudo and Yuji are the best in their respective roles that we have at this level of play. And everybody else is like on their way. And so, yeah, I think Dragonsteel has what it takes. I'm really excited to see what they do. I'm very, very excited for this team.
It'll be interesting to compare them to the Luminosity roster that a big chunk of them won the NACL the 2 splits before. And I think a lot of conversations over last year were that competition in Tier 2 was potentially a little bit weaker than it was in 2023 when that C9 Challengers / DSG team, won it all. And so comparing them in 2025 will be very fun. We'll finally have that answer to the hypothetical: who is better, the champions of 2024 or the champions of 2023? And so that'll be a fun thing to.
It's going to be a good split.
It'll be really fun. Yeah, I'm super excited.
What's awesome?
We only have two of the rosters announced as well, and so there's still a ton to look forward to. We didn't even talk about like Nightmare and Dokla playing in the OQs.
It's gonna
we'll
be a good
probably
split,
talk about them
man.
more when their roster gets further announced. But yeah, biggest tournament of the season actually will be starting tomorrow as you're watching this. That's right. It's the annual Caster Clash, baby. Hawk and I, both captains for our respective teams, Team Play-by-Play and Team Color. Team Play-by-Play, we have finished 4th place last season. We did finish 3rd place in 2022, but we're looking for redemption here
Team
this
Desk
time
was so
around.
trash, bro. Oh my god.
Yeah, that Hawk guy that they were playing the bot lane.
Fucking
for Team
hell,
Desk,
dude.
that guy sucked.
Tank Lilia just so I couldn't kill Mad Magical fast enough to reset. Shit lives rent free in my head.
Yeah, but make sure to tune in. Tomorrow night, I think our first game is starting at about 4:45 or 3:45, I should say. Or no, 2:45.
2:45 Pacific.
2:45 Pacific, 5:45 Eastern.
My man needs to figure out time zones.
/KangasCast. Time zones are tough. But we got Team Play-by-Play, Team Color. We also have Team Coach and Team Production this time around. I mean, it'll be a fun time overall. We're going to probably have some players casting the games as well, so they get to
If you are a player and you want to cast the games, reach out to Kangas. You don't have to cast all of them. You probably just cast one of them. I know Samakin was like, I don't want to cast 8 games. I'm like, Sammy, just do like 2 of them.
Yep. But what are the vibes over on Team Color right now? Are you guys scared?
I'm gonna be honest, Grapes. When I've been at work the last 2 days, I've gotten out of work to see 200 messages in that group chat, and I just have not read all of them. But that leads me to believe that the vibes at Team Colorcaster are quite good. To go through the rosters really quick for everybody. So Team Play-by-Play is Grapes, Kangas, Mazel, Soulpan, Slayer, Yanni Gordo, and Thousand Eyes. My Team Color, we have Ferris, Quacks, Alk Battery, Joshi, Shibby, Miss Timo, and TDS.
Biggest scam of all time.
And myself. Hey, Miss Timo was on my forum, dude. I'm following the rules.
Professional player, Miss Timo, by the way.
Maybe Grandmaster. Hey, we need a ringer if we're gonna. It's coming home this year. Okay, that is the slogan for Team Colorcaster this year. It is coming the fuck home. Team Prod, they lost their best player in Emily. Team Coach, they've got a couple of challenger players, and that's it. Like, it's coming home.
Yeah.
It's our time.
A couple of challenger players, and that's it. Is the biggest cope I've ever heard.
Yeah. Team Coach going over there. They have Rourke Rost. Rourke, the coach of. Fuck me. Who was Rourke coaching last year?
He's coached a bunch of stuff.
He's coached a bunch of teams.
Like, Mirage Alliance.
Yeah,
or something.
He's been around. Anyway, Rost, the analyst for Disguised and Pulstar. We have Shirley from Supernova, team manager. Rend, coach of Supernova. Brizzy, content creator for Blue Otter. Shauna Tonin, everyone's favorite coach of Illinois Wesleyan. And Myra Davis, Keanu, and former Wildcard as their main call to fame. Team production, Coco the Dragon, Protos, who is like Grandmaster. MZ Leo the Chosen, the stats guy on LCS. Tim Dakar Bui, everyone's favorite Twitter Rizzler. Asher, content creator for Team Liquid. PVS, who has played in OQs. And Camcom. Shout out Cam. And they didn't draft Leanne. How rude.
We have... So just I love how we're analyzing these teams like they're NACL rosters, by the way. This is great. The ELO comparisons are pretty drastic. I think Team Play-by-Play, we're like a plat average team. Team Color, that you guys are like diamond average.
We're about diamond, yeah.
Coach and Prod also like the high diamond average.
I would say Coach and Prod are also both diamond average, but there's a bit more variance. Whereas Prod has a couple players that are like really good.
If Prod
like have a couple players that are like flat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If Prod runs out like their top 5 ranked players, it'll definitely be tough for anybody.
There's also some super washed players in this tournament. Like I know Josh has hardly played any league like in like months. And so he's been calling himself washed. I'm sorry, guys. Coco is super washed. I'm like That's
You're gonna say
just
this
true.
and I'm gonna lose to him in lane again, so.
If I can beat that man all 3 games I played against him in top lane last year, like, guys, you don't have the sauce anymore. I'm sorry, but Justin Tucker, McQueen is fading. Okay.
Oh man.
Like, so that
I'm
some important to note there.
I just want to say, vibes for team play-by-play are great. We're
You're
playing,
gonna get shit on, and
playing-
you have
we're
to just play
playing
for content.
We're playing our normal games. We're enjoying it. It's we're practicing practicing by playing normal.
Yo, who's winning the bot lane? Who's winning the bot lane war?
Oh, we haven't actually like done official scrims really just yet.
Fuck,
I
man.
don't even think we've gotten Slayer Yanni to
Man.
play bot lane together yet.
Okay, the real
so
question
we'll
is
see.
who plays against Team Colorcaster.
Well, I don't know. We're gonna have to make some. I don't want to leak any of our strategies here.
All right.
just yet,
I
in
already
case that
told
would
you
help
what my
us.
whole roster is going to be for if we play against Team Play by
No
Play.
leaks. No leaks.
All right, sure. No leaks.
So yeah, make sure to tune in tomorrow.
But be
night,
ready for Josh.
Twitch.tv/KangasCasts. It'll be a really fun
It's gonna be a good
event.
time.
It's always a really good time to just kind of wrap up the year as a whole. All the people that are involved getting a chance to duke it out on the Rift even after we just kind of watch people play on the Rift for our whole career, for our whole job. So yeah, I'm excited. It's always something we look forward to, and you should be too as you tune in. But that's gonna do it for this episode, Hawk. Another solid off-season thing. There was a decent amount of news to cover, and so I am happy that we did.
Things
this.
are moving. Things are starting
I
to
hope
move.
that there's a steady trickle of like 1 or 2 NACL rosters that get announced every week, so we can have just continuous content to go through. But we will release more when there's more news.
Of
basically.
course, things are definitely starting to move. We're like a week away from Riot winter break as well, if I had to guess. So I'm wondering if we'll start to hear more information about like more operations side of things, how everything's going to run. If not, maybe we have to wait till January. I'm hoping not, because I'm hoping that that's when the qualifier tournament is like sometime in like mid-late January is maybe when that gets started up. But I guess only time will tell, Grapes. But regardless, if I'm not mistaken, I believe we're pretty much set in stone with LTA rosters at this point. So that should mean that the NACL machine will continue. We've already gotten 2 of the 6 rosters locked in, and that's not even talking about all the teams that are going to be vying for those final 4 spots.
I'm super excited to get over with December, get into the new season, get to that open qualifier. I mean, the off season's been nice because it means that we get to relax a little bit, but part of me is just itching to get more involved, get back.
My
into the
excitement
space.
for League is starting to come back, as it always does.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you to everyone for tuning in for this episode. We'll be back sometime very soon with another one. We're kind of meandering our way through the off season, but big things coming in 2025. Salty Runback is looking for sponsors. If you would like to work with us for the 2025 season, we have multiple flagship broadcasts on the horizon. It is our stated goal to become North America's #1 esports production company. You can be the one that helps make it happen. If you either work for a company that might be interested or know somebody that works for a company that might be interested, please connect with us. We would love to have conversations about the projects that we have on the horizon. It is not just about podcasting anymore here at Salty Runback, but about so much more. In addition, make sure you follow all of us on our social media at Hawkcast, at Speedy Grapes, at Salty Runback Pod. Stay up to date with everything that's happening in North America and regarding all of our fun projects. But that's going to do it for us here for today. I've been Hawk. That's been Grapes. If you think that Team Play-by-Play has any hope in this tournament at all, you can take what we said with a grain of salt. But you're also mega coping. Have a good one, y'all.
We're winning it all. We're winning it all.